It's time to roar, Tiger fans. This is the Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al. I'm your co-host, Big Al. We've got an awesome show for y'all tonight, so we won't waste any more time. Let's load the buses, Tiger fans. We are live.
The Morgan Thomas Show, brought to you by Black's Tire Inc.
What's up, Tiger fans? It's the Morgan Thomas Show with your host and producer, Morgan Thomas, and my co-host joining me. You saw him just a few seconds ago, Big Al, Alan Adams. Welcome to the show, Al.
Hey, I appreciate you having me. What a moment for me, right? My debut is intro to the show. I'm hope the fans loved it as much as I did.
Oh, I loved it. And I thought, this would be a great night. Some people are thinking, why in the world is the Morgan Thomas Show, which is normally 8:30 p.m. every Wednesday night, on Monday night? Last week, we're on Tuesday night. This week, we're on Monday night. We're just changing things up. Well, not only are we trying to get a new audience that might be out there on Monday and Tuesday, but also got a few things going on in my real job. You know, those things that we don't like to do, that real job. We got to go to those sometimes. And this week I'll be traveling again, might be traveling again in a couple of weeks as well. So be on the lookout, maybe Monday nights, Tuesday nights, who knows what might work. If Monday nights, Tuesday nights end up having to be more consistent for us, we might move it all together, but still 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, Wednesday night. But that's not the only way that you can check out the show, Al. Have you heard that we are now a podcast?
That's the rumor, going through the grapevine here. I hear that we're on several platforms as well. Can you tell us a little more about those?
Yeah, so as you know, a few weeks ago, or really towards the beginning of the season, we started partnering with The Roar. And so we took the show that's normally video show, and we took it from that video format and made it into audio and sent it up to The Roar so they could replay it every Thursday night. So that's another way you can watch the show, or rather listen to the show every Thursday night at 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on The Roar if you're in the upstate, or you can check it out on their app as well. But because I was already doing the audio, Al, I just said, well, might as well put a podcast out there. Our friend Ellis Tolbert, that has been on the show a couple of times with 4th and 16 podcast, he told me it's simple. He kind of gave me some steps on how to do it. So we are officially on really most of the major podcasts. You got Apple Podcasts, you got Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, and a few other ones that are lesser known, but the big players really, and we're still waiting for approval for iHeartRadio. So if you like Spotify, I love Spotify. I check out my music when I'm working out. You can go over to Morgan Thomas Show there and check it out and watch us there or listen to us there. Or if you're an Apple user, you can check it out on Apple Podcasts as well. Go over there and subscribe to it. It's a condensed version of the show, and in the future, we're looking to add more things to it. So we're excited about that. Just another way for us to come to you and give you more Clemson content, which is what we're all about. But let me tell you about our primary sponsor. They present the show, and they've been with us since really day one, and that is Black's Tire Inc. over in Westminster, South Carolina, just a little bit of ways from Clemson, South Carolina, but family owned and operated since 1971. If you need new tires, brakes, alignments, tire repair, or just looking for a friendly professional to help answer your questions, stop by Black's Tire Inc., located 1415 East Main Street, Westminster, South Carolina, or give them a call, 864-647-9292. As we always say, we're not a show that likes to promote other businesses that we have not used ourselves. Alan and I have both used Black's Tire Inc., and we trust them. Like I said, family owned and operated, 1971. You can't really go wrong with a company that has been in business that long. They do people right, and that's why they've been around for so long. But excited for this Monday, Al. Big game for Clemson over the weekend, but really two big topics. And this is going to be more of a topical show, if you don't mind. I know we kind of do more of a structured show, but I've been listening to Michael Savage, who's a conservative talk show guy or podcaster, and I just really like the way he does some things. So we're going to try something a little bit different, not so structured, not so exactly like the last show, but a different game. We're going to do something that's topical, and we're going to start off really the first two topics of the night, kind of go back to two things that are in the news for ESPN, on ESPN, and for Clemson. And they're really not that good of things, Al. You're looking at Clemson drops in the polls, and Andrew Booth rides the bus. Two top headlines on ESPN.com right now. Not really the best look for the Tigers.
Yeah, not real flattering to say the least. But I mean, hey, you provide some good topics for us to go into tonight. So I'm looking forward to it. You want to jump right into Ohio State jumping Clemson?
Well, before I do that, let's give a shout out to the people that are watching now. We have a great
Absolutely.
following every single week, and I don't want to forget you guys over on YouTube. We got 14 people watching. Pigskin Pete, love you, man. He loves the intro. Halo, Dale, Little C, Bob, and everybody jumping in. So I appreciate that. I appreciate it so much over on YouTube. What you got over on Facebook?
Right now, we're holding with 20 on Facebook. You know, some of the ones that I can see. My wife is watching. Trey, Kevron's in. Dodie is in. Audrey's in. And Nick is in as well. So we love the support from you guys. If I did not call you out, I don't see your name. So add me on Facebook. Add Morgan on Facebook. And we can hopefully kind of see you come up in our comment section down there.
Yeah, give us a shout in the comments like Alan said. Got NMD, big Miami guy. He has a great show over there. Also, Pigskin Pete has a great YouTube show. So just go check him out. Share the love. We love to see more Clemson and college football content out there, and those two guys do pretty well as well. Pigskin's already getting onto us. He says it's a controversial but meaningless topic, but we're going to go over it, and that's for sure. I mean, Alan and I both agree when we kind of went over this, but that's what we're going to do. Is we're going to start with topic number 1, Al. And that is Clemson falling into number 4 in the AP poll after earning a 35-point road win against Louisville, which really was a Louisville team with a winning record, Al. Clemson is, now dropping even further. But if you're a fan of the show, it's not a need for panic because we have talked about this for the past couple of weeks that Clemson could possibly continue to win and continue to fall in the AP poll. Now, there's two sides of the argument. So there's the Clemson fan that cares and is really upset and says, this is really something that this shows the bias in the media and the fake news, how the president has kind of made that popular. Well, there's fake news in college football. But then there's also the other side of the argument, like some people that reminded me on Twitter at Clemson Morgan said, hey, it's no big deal. The poll doesn't matter at all. This is just the AP poll. Wait till the college football playoffs come out. That's when it'll matter. Actually, really, the beginning one doesn't even matter. Let's wait till towards the end of the season. That's what really matters. What side of the coin are you on with that topic?
I'm definitely on the it doesn't matter side. We talked about this, I think, a week ago, actually, when we were discussing Clemson dropping in the polls. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago. We talked about it, and my opinion has not changed. In all honesty, based on, the resume for this year, I think Clemson's right about where they should be. Maybe later on, I hope you'll get into a little bit of a quick hitter kind of top 5. I've got my list. I hope you have studied up for yours as well, because, people might be surprised where I have Clemson on my list for sure. But, there's teams where I don't think they deserve where they need to be, that aren't where they deserve to be in this top 5 already that have come out. But in the end, like we said, if Clemson just wins, it will take care of itself. There's no way an undefeated Clemson team is getting left out of this playoff. So do not worry about it. Don't fret. The SEC bias is strong. Okay, so it causes some people to jump us. The weak schedule, we get the ACC as down talk. It's going to happen. So don't worry about it. Enjoy the ride. Enjoy the wins, and we'll be there in the end.
Yeah, according to the ESPN article, really from the Associated Press, Alabama remained number 1 on Sunday. Then you've got LSU at number 2. Alabama had 24 first-place votes. LSU had 16 first-place votes. The Buckeyes, Ohio State, had 13 first-place votes at number 3. And then Clemson, the preseason number 1 and defending national champions, had 9 first-place votes and ended up 4th. They also mentioned that this is kind of the closest that the top 4 have been all year, and that there is a big drop-off between Clemson and number 5, Oklahoma. So it seems like they're kind of lumped those top 4 into very similar point ranges, or very close point ranges. So maybe they're saying that these teams are so close it's hard to tell, but we're going to put it the way it is right now. My thing about the issue, Alan, is that Alabama is not under the same microscope as Clemson. So It seems like that Alabama's defense is nowhere near what it used to be, barely a top 30 defense. And Alabama is also one of those teams that they didn't have the best performance against, I believe, Mississippi last weekend. And so they turn around, but they don't get any really loss in the first place votes there. They kind of stay at the top. And it's if you're going to say this is a fair comparison of everything, And everybody says, well, you can't say that they're the defending national champions because we're going to start on a blank slate. I'm cool with that. But Alabama needs to start on a blank slate too. Clemson
Agreed.
can't be the only team that starts on a blank slate. Ohio State can't be the only team that starts on a blank slate. Same thing with LSU. You can't be the only team that starts on a blank slate. Alabama seems to be the only team that doesn't matter for. They get to stay at the top. And we all know what's going to happen. They've already mentioned it on ESPN. What's going to happen? Alabama, LSU are probably going to coast this weekend. And then they're going to have a bye weekend. And then they're going to play each other on November 9th. So basically, the 1-2 is not going to move for 3 weeks. So you're looking at the 1-2 is not going to move until they actually play each other, which is exactly what the media wanted, is to have those top two guys. Not only is it going to be a primetime game, probably Kirk and Chris going to call that game. It's going to be College Game Day, going to be a lot of money made. But I don't think that is exactly the right ranking for those two teams based on the resume that they have right now. And you said your top five. You said you hope that we'll go over a top five, and we will. I have it put down here. And so I want to say this to my Clemson fans. We're a Clemson show, but I kind of agree with you too, Alan. The more I started looking at it, the more I started weeding through, there's not so much a case for Clemson to be number one, really. I mean, other than saying they're the defending national champions and they're going to get it together, which is what most Clemson fans have said, at least from what I can tell, is that Clemson's going to eventually get it together. They're going to eventually have all the pieces go, and they're going to do that, 10-game streak of 20-plus points win games, right? But nobody's for sure on that. That's just what we hope will happen. But let me tell you my top two, Al. And I want to see if this surprises you at all. Let me know in the comments over on YouTube and Facebook what your top two are. Number one, number two, college football playoffs, the rankings as they are right now. Whether they matter or not, we want to know. LSU is my number one. I like LSU. They've got big wins against Texas, which was an away game. They got a win against Florida, which was at home, but it was a really good game. I enjoyed watching both those games. And that was a big game against a non-conference team that was ranked in a Texas team that has kind of fallen down since then, but it was early in the season. I mean, anytime you get a road win like that against a historic program like that, and show that you've completely changed your offense was eye-opening for me, and I'm not forgetting about that. Same thing with Florida. Florida stuck with them, but towards the fourth quarter they took over the game. So I've got LSU with a number 3 in the nation offense. Defense not so much, but still a top 25 defense. And then I've got Ohio State, which Kirk Herbstreit has been saying Ohio State number 1. They just don't have the resume, I believe, like LSU has yet. I think they obviously have that win against Michigan State, but I feel like Michigan State always flops in big games. And then they do have a blowout win, 42-0 against Cincinnati. So that's why they're my number 2.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty fair. If I were ranking teams this year, I'll give you my top 2 as well. And number 1 is LSU, and that's simply based off resume. I mean, they have the big win against Florida. They have what we think is a big win against Texas. Obviously, Texas has fallen off, but they're still a quality team. And to beat them at Texas, I believe they were playing that game in Texas Stadium. I mean, that's impressive. Texas obviously has a great offense. We know that. They were able to come away with a win. I think they're the only team here that has 2 quality wins, which is why they're number 1, and I don't see any reason they shouldn't be. When I was talking about Clemson fans, shouldn't worry about the polls or anything like that, it's not because I agree with the polls. It's just because, I think their Alabama is held to a different standard than everybody else. It's unfair, but it's not going to matter in the end. I do think they need to change the way they look at things. Alabama, Qualk went on a massive rant today. It was an awesome show with him and Kelly today. And he was talking about Alabama being held to a different standard. He threw out some awesome statistics. So I'd encourage you to go back and check out his show for those. But I have LSU number 1. And it's funny because you have to decide what you want to rate these teams by. Are you rating them by popular wins? Are you rating them by the eye test? What are you going by here? Strength of schedule? I actually have Oklahoma number 2 because, they have a win against Texas as well. And I think that's really the only team other than LSU who has a quality win out of all my top 5 teams. So I actually have Oklahoma number 2. Now, do I think Oklahoma ends up number 2? No, I don't. I think they get a loss in there somewhere. But right now, I've got them at number 2.
Wow, I wasn't really expecting that. I kept Oklahoma as my 5th team with Alabama number 3, Clemson number 4, because Alabama beat Texas A&M at Texas A&M. Clemson's really only high profile game was Texas A&M, which was at home. and Alabama doesn't have that close win. And a close win like that against UNC, while we know there are many rational reasons why that happened, we do also know that it was bad play calling and bad quarterback play and bad offensive line play. All around, 3 bad things all at once in one game led to a 1 point near almost a loss. If it would have got that 2-point conversion, it would have been very difficult to come back. But we came away, Clemson came away with a win.
Sure.
So I have Oklahoma at 5th. They are the number 1 offense in the nation by far. I mean, Jalen Hurts is killing them. They still are top 30 defense, 28th overall defense. So their defense is not as good as their offense, which is kind of what we expected, but not like last year. Last year they were kind of around the 70 mark going into the playoffs, I believe. Now they are in the top 30 in defense. So they're definitely getting a lot better, all centered around, I believe his name's Murray, number 9, I think, over on the Oklahoma defense, that centerpiece in that defensive 7 there at the linebacker core. He is just amazing. He and Isaiah Simmons, man, if they were both on the same team, it would just be a killer. It'd be unfair to have those 2 guys at the linebacker position going around the field. But that was kind of rounding out for me LSU, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, Penn State. A lot of people over on YouTube saying, don't worry about it. This is exactly where Clemson needs to be because of that Roy bust, because of that chip on the shoulder type thing, because of that looking forward to playing with, aggression towards proving people wrong. What do you think about that?
No, that is an excellent point. I mean, that's where Clemson wants to be. That's where Dabo wants to be. Dabo has done his best to make sure they're in that position every single year, and it pays off big time. So I'm all for that. I think really if you're going simply by eye test, I took resume a lot into account what's been accomplished on the field this year, which is why I have Oklahoma number 2. But if I were ranking by the eye test, I would say either LSU or Ohio State is number 1. Right now, I have them ranked LSU 1, Oklahoma 2, Ohio State 3, Alabama 4, and Clemson 5. Because basically Ohio State, Alabama, and Clemson, none of them have a signature win to me. Ohio State has looked the best on the field. They've blown pretty much everybody out. And Alabama and Clemson have the same best win, so to speak, and it's Texas A&M. Alabama beat them away. We beat them at home. So I'm giving Alabama the edge there. I think it's all going to work out in the end, and Clemson will get their offense going. They won't, sputter like they have in the first quarter or so in these last few games. Trevor Lawrence is going to get it going, and we're going to jump up the pole. So I'm not worried about that right now. Clemson will be there in the end.
I like it, Al. That ends with our first kind of mini topic of the night. Not really a mini topic because we can't control ourselves when it comes to talking about Clemson football. I appreciate everybody getting in on YouTube and Facebook. We got 15 watching on Facebook or YouTube right now. How many we got on Facebook, Al?
We have 20 watching on Facebook right now. We had a lot of new ones get in. If you don't mind me going through a couple of these, let's see. I saw BE gets in, Beth gets in, my sister's watching, Joey's watching, Mark, Mitchell. We have 2 Marks actually. Chris is in. I mean, we've got a ton of people watching here on Facebook. A lot of people are getting in the comments saying, hey, and what's up? We appreciate that, everybody. We appreciate it so much. Get in the comments. Tell us your thoughts. Kind of give us your top 5 if you don't mind, but we want to know what you think.
Yeah. Hey, if you like Mondays better, let us know in the comments as well. We're open for suggestions on the show and what we can do to help make the show better for you. And we want to have that ESPN quality show for you that's about the Clemson Tigers and not so much about the SEC. Our next thing is Andrew Booth riding the bus. Man, this was an interesting topic over on ESPN. Another top headline. Cornerback Andrew Booth Jr. was ejected for throwing a punch in the third quarter of the Tigers' 45-10 win at Louisville on Saturday. I believe this is from an ESPN senior writer. Mm-hmm. According to Tigers coach Dabo Swinney, Booth had a long time to think about what he did. Swinney told reporters this on his weekly teleconference on Sunday that he had to ride the bus with the team managers back to Clemson, South Carolina, while the rest of the team flew home. That's about a 450-mile ride. I've actually driven from Greenville to Cincinnati to visit my aunt, so it is a long ride for sure, even in a rental car. But on a bus, it can get kind of boring. But he rode back on it. Dabo said he rode back on our manager bus. That's where it started. The rest of it will be handled in-house. And a lot of controversy really over on Twitter as well. I'm getting in on Twitter a lot more at Clemson Morgan, so go follow me there. But I'm getting in on Twitter a lot more, and I'm seeing people say, a lot of people jumped on, he needs to be kicked off the team because that's not the Clemson way. That's not the way Clemson works. He must be somebody who has bad character. And I want to say, hold up. Let's pump the brakes on that a lot because this guy's a true freshman. He's just getting to know the culture and the community there at Clemson. He chose Clemson just a few months ago and just recently graduated high school. We got to remember these guys are just teenagers and trying to figure things out. And Alan, I even mentioned over to Lawton Swan in his Twitter feed that, hey, I have nothing to talk about because of a few times that I might have acted out in the church basketball games that I've been in that you've been a part of and you can attest to as well. What were your thoughts on it?
And by the way, the good coach that I was did not kick you off the team. I understand, that things get heated in sports. So you kind of got to give some second and third chances in there, right? Now, Andrew Booth, no doubt, was the punch heard around the world, man. They got tangled up in coverage on a punt. He throws him to the ground and then, he punches him in the helmet, which is just baffling to me. I will never understand why you punch somebody in the helmet. Like, that's not going to hurt yourself. I'll never understand that. But, Dabo handled it like Dabo would. Okay. He immediately apologizes to the coach. I think it's funny because everybody was wondering on the TV, they're like, hey, Booth got ejected. He was ejected for that hit. Well, the referees hadn't ejected him yet. It was Dabo that ejected him immediately and sent him to the locker room, which is a very Dabo thing to do. And it's an amazing thing. It's a blessing to have a coach that knows how to handle those situations so well. And of course, just the fact that he made him ride home on the manager's bus is an awesome addition to that punishment. I'm sure he'll be running a lot as well. From all that I have heard, Booth is a good kid from a good family. Things get heated. It's competition. It's what it is. You don't know what was said on that field, to kind of provoke what happened there. But it's not defending him in any way, obviously. But I have a feeling he will come back from this. He will learn from this. Dabo will get him right, and he'll be a star for Clemson in the future.
Yeah, I put a tweet out recently that said we get these guys in, 18 years old. We want them to work out as much as they can, as often as they can, to get stronger and faster so that eventually they can get on the field and hit the opposing player and cover the opposing player as tight as possible and hit them as hard as possible. But then when they lose their cool and punch somebody in an aggressive way, we say, you need to be off the team. That's ridiculous. You don't need to say that to somebody. Again, like you said, let's discipline him. Let's lead him. Leadership is what it's all about. In that case, Dabo Swinney has always said it's not about the game, not about the score, not about winning championships either. It's about developing these young boys into high school boys into men. And that's what Dabo's doing. Hey, let us know what you think over in the comments on Facebook, YouTube. If you want to get into the conversation, we haven't talked about this. If you look up at the top of the screen, 864-772-6674. That's our Buffalo Wild Wings of Greenville, South Carolina hotline. That's over on Woodruff Road in the shops at Green Ridge. Go let Daryl know that you heard about his restaurant from our show, The Morgan Thomas Show. We're going to be back right after this. Stay with us because we're going to talk a little bit more about some topics that are going hot this week with Tua and with Will Muschamp. Yeah, we're going to give the South Carolina fans, those one or two that might be listening or watching, their moment to shine tonight. But we'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Morgan Thomas Show with my co-host, Big Al, Alan Adams. Open phone lines again over on the Buffalo Wild Wings of Greenville, South Carolina hotline, 864-772-6674. Jump on the line and we'll make sure that you go live with us. Hey, you could be on the radio. Your call could be on the radio or on YouTube, so go check it out. Some of our best videos, Al, have been from callers calling in, and we had one last week. We had one a couple of weeks ago, so hey, come on in and join us on the show. It's not just us, flapping our gums here. But before we talk about anything else, Al, I wanted to tell you a little bit about a company that we love and that helps us dress for success. That is the Tiger Sports Shop. They are our exclusive apparel provider for the Morgan Thomas Show. We're actually wearing exclusive items. Well, I'm wearing an exclusive item. Alan's wearing something that you can also find in their stores. This is their kind of a lavender Tiger Sports Shop exclusive collection Clemson shirt. It's kind of like a polo, really soft and really just lightweight. So I love it, and I hope that you guys go check it out over there at their downtown location or their Tiger Boulevard location. Al, what you got?
I mean, I have a kind of a heathered purple polo. This is a Cutter and Buck polo you can find at Tiger Sports Shop. They also have this in orange. They both look phenomenal. It is literally one of my favorite shirts I've ever owned, and one of the most comfortable as well. I mean, let's be real. All the performance polos, feel great, but this one just in particular has the perfect weight to it. I absolutely love this shirt. But you can find those, like I said, at Tiger Sports Shop downtown on US 123. Either way, they will take care of you guys. They have so much good stuff. I could spend so much money in these places. Okay, I want to go there all the time. I rarely make a trip to Clemson without heading to one of the Tiger Sports Shops for sure. But, they do a great job with us. We appreciate everything they do for us and all these great clothes that they give us to kind of sport on the show. So please go check them out, see what they can do for you.
We could spend all of our wives' money on Clemson gear. For
exactly.
Sure. And you could too, and we hope you do. If you go by the Tiger Sports Shop, let Julie, the owner, or Sean, the general manager there, know that you heard about them from the Morgan Thomas Show. It'd be awesome. We'd really appreciate it, and show us some support. On to topic number 2, or segment number 2. We kind of break it up like this. If you're kind of wondering, why do they break it up like this? We break it up like this because of the way the radio is set up. So we have our show every Thursday night on the Roar 105.5 in Greenville, Clemson, 97.5 over in Spartanburg. And we kind of break it up that way to make it easier for them make it easier for us to distribute it onto the radio. So go check it out. If you miss anything, or if you want to tell anybody about the show, hey, we're on the radio as well. So we'd appreciate that. But second segment of the night is really the first thing I want to start it off with is Tua undergoing ankle surgery again, Al. This is the same ankle surgery that he had last year. And this is from a top headline over on ESPN as well. Alabama quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, I think I said that right, Tagovailoa,
yep,
will miss Saturday's game against Arkansas. Wow, big deal. I mean, it's Arkansas. I believe Chad Morris is doing everything he can to not win any games. But he's undergoing a surgery to help repair his high ankle sprain that he suffered against Tennessee. Man, we need to talk about that Tennessee game because that was a little bit closer than I think people wanted it to be over on Alabama's side. But he suffered it in the win, and he had to leave. It was interesting. He left the game and got into an ambulance and then came back in street clothes. It was very concerning for Alabama fans. And very eye-opening, very big deal for those non-Alabama fans that are kind of looking what's going to happen. But with no question, they went in the very next day, I believe this was yesterday, and just performed that same surgery that he had on his other leg, other ankle in the SEC championship last year. And so it's called a tightrope procedure. It kind of basically the two bones in your leg down there, they drill a hole through them and kind of put a rope through them and then tie them off at the ends and then kind of make it closer together so they don't pull apart. Now, I'm not a medical guy. I don't know anything about all that. It just sounds a little painful, but you kind of have like a 4-inch scar down there at your ankle. And but they say that it's done. They used to do it with screws, like actual screws through both the bones, and you'd have a lot of problems with that. Like the screws would break, or it would just keep you immobile for a longer period of time in a boot. And so now they have this kind of bungee, or not bungee, but it's kind of like metal cords or whatever that are braided and wrapped around. And they do that so that the recovery period is a lot faster. Obviously, he had, I think, about a month before he had to go play Oklahoma before that last surgery. Now he really only has 3 weeks, so it's a week shorter. But everybody seems to think that he's going to be okay. To me, I feel like that, it's always iffy when you do these surgeries and you want them to come back so quick. I get nervous when you had Amari Rodgers out there because I'm a ACL survivor myself. And so I got nervous in that case as well. But doctors kind of know what they're doing. I'm going to trust them. Alan, do you think I don't think it'll have any problem beating Arkansas. Do you think that do you think he'll be good to go for LSU? Keep in mind, there's Arkansas, then an open date, and then LSU.
Right. So they got 3 weeks. I mean, good to go is kind of a relative term. Will he play? Yeah, I think he'll probably play. Will he be 100%? No, I don't think there's any way he's going to be 100%. If I'm not mistaken, last year when he had 4 weeks off after the Georgia game to go to the college football playoff, I'm pretty sure he said he wasn't but 80 or 85% going into that game, and that was with 4 weeks. Right now he's only got 3 to kind of get healthy. I think it's a good thing, obviously, a good thing, good timing for Alabama, at least that, Arkansas is this week, who is one of the worst Power 5 teams in the country. And then, of course, they have an off week. It's funny how the timing just seems to work out for Alabama. It's amazing how that goes. But I don't think he's going to be 100% for LSU. And I think that's going to pose some problems because, like you said, I don't think Alabama's defense is anywhere near the Alabama defense that they are used to. They're not as dominant. They've had points scored on them. I think they're vulnerable. I think they're definitely beatable. And if they're having Mac Jones as their quarterback for any significant amount of time, they're definitely beatable for sure. I mean, he's not going to scare anybody back there at the quarterback position for sure. So, I think they need Tua to be a playoff contender. Without him, I think they're going to have one, if not two, losses going forward. I don't think it's going to be to Arkansas. I think they can just hand the ball off every down and beat Arkansas. But, I mean, you said the Tennessee game was close for a while. And, of course, the Tide fans are going to say, well, we didn't have our quarterback. But they're going to forget the fact that Tennessee's quarterback went out as well. And they had to bring back in their backup for that game too. So, there was a lot going on in that game that was kind of funny. But I mean, the Tua thing is obviously going to be the headline grabber for sure. It's a big deal. Whether it becomes a big deal in 3 weeks, when they play LSU, who knows? Obviously, these procedures get better and better each year. So maybe he's ready. Maybe he's full go in 3 weeks. I just have my doubts. I've had a lot of ankle sprains in the past, and it really seems like a desperate move to get him back. I mean, they had that surgery immediately. I think they understand the urgency with the LSU game coming up and know that they probably cannot beat him with Mac Jones even at home.
Oh, I had my mute on. Sorry, Al. I don't think that Alabama can beat LSU with the backup quarterback. I don't believe that at all. I want to see Tua in the game for LSU. I want to see those two big giant teams go at it on November 9th. That's what I'm looking forward to the most. I'm also looking forward to LSU winning that game. I picked early in the season that I felt like LSU would had a big chance to go in there. Now, it works. It always works out perfectly for Alabama, right? He gets hurt. They play the biggest cupcake in the SEC, I believe, in Arkansas, who can't seem to win, can't seem to score, just terrible all around. So they come away with that, like you said, could just run the ball and get away with it. And then they get a bye week, which thank goodness that LSU gets a bye week. It would be typical Alabama if LSU didn't have a bye week. They already have to play Auburn, which we're going to talk about later on in the show in segment 3 and give our picks against the spread. But it'd just be typical LSU that they are typical Alabama that they would not only have a cupcake team, but then have a bye week while the other team that they're getting ready to play has 2 hard games. But thankfully, LSU doesn't have to look forward to the next week. They know that next week's going to be a bye week, so they can just focus on Auburn. To be honest with you, just kind of jump ahead, I think that LSU will go through Auburn. I think LSU has everything they need to beat Auburn. I don't think that I don't trust Bo Nix, and so I think LSU is going to be able to beat Auburn and go into it. 2 undefeated teams going into the beginning of November. It's going to be exciting for sure to watch that. The other thing, as far as topics, just jumping over because we don't want to give Alabama a lot of time, and we definitely don't want to give this other team a lot of time on our show. But Will Muschamp calls out the officials for being gutless, or one official. Let me take that back. Calls out one official for being gutless, and if you didn't watch the game, it was a pretty closely fought battle there. South Carolina lost 38-27, but really it was a lot closer than that. It was one possession almost the entire game, and then they kind of took it off towards the very end. Muschamp couldn't help but answer when he was asked about an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty he received with 4 minutes to go in the game. After passionately arguing with officials on the sidelines from apparent missed calls throughout the day, and he said, "I'm just really upset." This is what he said about specifically. The guy ran 40 yards away and then dropped the flag. I have no idea. I'd rather him drop it on my feet. He said, "Just drop it on my feet next time." And then he kind of under his breath said, "Gutless," And I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, obviously he's very heated. He's very upset in the moment. And so, it depends on what side you're on. If you're a Clemson fan, you probably didn't like it. If you're a Carolina fan, you probably did like it. What I will say is when I watch the highlights, Alan, I can't really complain in the sense that I can't really blame him in the sense that there was a big run from Pirine for Florida where wide receiver number 89, Tyree Cleveland, was like holding the guy's number 24's, the cornerback's jersey right behind the neck, just holding it the whole entire time for 40 yards. So
Yeah.
I saw that one and I thought that was a little bit ridiculous. I don't know why didn't somebody see that? It would be such a South Carolina move to be at home and not get calls for you. That would be typical South Carolina. It just seems like the curse of the chicken, right? To be at home a big game and not get calls like that. And then there were a couple of pass interference plays where there was one where immediately when it happened, I didn't feel like it was pass interference on, I believe, Horn, number 1 for South Carolina in the red zone. Man, that's when all the trash started going out on the field. I don't agree with that. I know Qualkenbush came out and he was ragging on the Carolina fans for doing that. I wouldn't necessarily agree with throwing trash out on the field by any means, but I can see that frustration there. It's just, and then there was one they called it the Clemson play, which it really was. If it was the Clemson play, it was botched. But there were two wide receivers on the right hand side. This was right after the pass interference call, and there were 2 wide receivers on the right hand side. And a guy rolls out and he throws it to him, and the 2 wide receivers are like in the end zone blocking their guys, blatantly blocking.
Yeah.
You could say it's like one of those wide receiver bubble passes that we do, but it was not well executed. So it looked like a traditional pass, and these guys were just blatantly blocking their defenders. So I can't really blame Muschamp. And if an official runs across the field to throw a flag, that is kind of, I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like that's kind of inappropriate too. If you're an official on the field, you need to throw the flag when you feel like it's an unsportsmanlike. You don't have to run away from the coach to throw the flag.
Yeah, absolutely. Adam gets in and says that hold would be something Duke basketball would get away with. And I think we, as Clemson fans, can all agree with that for sure. I mean, look, when I watched this game, I was laughing the whole play. Okay, my father-in-law was watching the game with my father-in-law, Columbia. He's like, what's so funny? I was like, did you not see this guy hold this guy all the way down the sideline for 40 yards? And they showed the replay, and sure enough, it was a really funny play. And I'll tell you why I'm not going to feel super sad for South Carolina on this play. Look, they also missed a false start on that play, by the way. The right side of Florida's offensive line, it was, started, half second or so too early. So they should have got called. The play should have been dead. But obviously it was a run to the left side, so whatever, it is what it is. The guy held his jersey. I think it was Mokuamu or something like that. I think it was the DB that was involved in that play. And they're running side by side. He's got his jersey. And I felt like Mokuamu or the DB did not make any attempt whatsoever to get to the ball carrier. I mean, I don't feel like he tried to kind of, go to the left or go to the right. He just kept running straight with the defensive back who was holding him. I mean, flail your arms, do something. People do that to try to get a holding call all the time. Now, let me be clear. Should it have been called? Absolutely. I think anybody could see that, except for, of course, the referee that was in front of the play. But, I mean, there's 4 other referees that could have seen it from 40 yards back. It definitely should have been called. It's definitely worth Muschamp getting upset about. But really the one that bothered me more was the pick play. I mean, that was a pick play, a classic pick play. The guy made no attempt to block. And the guy ran a little wheel route to get wide open in the end zone. Now, of course, I wasn't crying too many tears for that one either, because, of course, I'm pulling for Florida in the game big time. But, Muschamp, and I distaste Muschamp, okay? I don't like him. I have a strong distaste for this guy. But he had every right to be upset, okay? I don't even care that he called the guy gutless. It does not matter to me. I think he has a point there. I mean, they're coming off a huge win, in Athens between the hedges against Georgia. They have a chance, even though they've had 3 losses on the season already, they have a chance to make a huge statement in this game by beating Florida at home and, back-to-back top 10 teams and whatnot. And they feel like that was ripped away from them, and it was. So Muschamp's got a point. I don't mind what he said. I really don't care. Now, at the same time, go Gators.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I would say that it's really interesting because, man, if they would have come off with a win, they would have beaten Georgia, then turned around and beaten Florida. Missouri came up and lost to Vanderbilt, which, I mean, that's a head scratcher for sure. That's about as bad as the ACC Coastal trying to pick games over there. But I think that South Carolina is definitely a team that you can't look past for sure. I'm thankful that it's the last game of the season for Clemson, so they're definitely not going to look past it for sure. And it's a rivalry game, so they're going to play Clemson tight as always, as they always do, as any rivalry game does. So it's definitely not a game to look past or kind of think that you're going to automatically win. The Gamecocks have a pretty solid team, and they can hang with anybody. Now, can they win with anybody? No, not yet, right? They still got some things to work out to figure that out. And it's frustrating, the growing pains for sure over there in Columbia. What's one thing that I will say, I don't have the numbers down, but looked like Tavian Feaster had a really nice game. So I want to give him a shout out. I know a lot of people are saying, oh boy, don't give him a shout out. He's a traitor, but he did graduate from Clemson, and he did play. He did play for Clemson and won a couple of national championships. And he left here with no disciplinary action or anything. So it's nice to see him being used. Finally, we've waited 7 weeks now, and it doesn't seem like he got used very much. But he ate off a bunch of big runs against the Gators, and the Gators, who are known for being a really stout defense, he was able to kind of show up for the Carolina Gamecocks when they needed it. And, unfortunately it didn't win. And a lot of people kind of scratch their heads. Why would you change teams to go to that? But it is nice overall to see him be successful. And Bo gets in on YouTube saying the same. Al, we got 27. Man, Monday nights might be the night, my friend. We've got 27 over on YouTube. How many do we have over on Facebook?
Well, I hate to one-up you here, but we have 28 over on Facebook, and we've been over 30 several times tonight. Look, if you're watching on Facebook and you haven't liked, followed, or shared the show, you're doing it wrong. So we need you to do all those things, especially if you like what you're hearing. We want everybody to kind of get involved. We want the word to spread as much as possible, so please do that. Like, follow, share every single time. So we appreciate the support. Get in with your comments. Let us know your thoughts.
All right, represent YouTube by saying subscribe as well. So like and subscribe and share over on YouTube. That's what you do. Must not be a big Monday night game. Oh, okay. It's a Monday night game, but we don't have any competition right now because it looks like the Patriots are winning 24-0 against 1-4 Jets, 6-0 Patriots. Tom Brady doing his work over there and just cruising. So yeah, Giggle said in the comments, Giggled, yeah. Good name there. I love it. Giggled. I won't read out the rest of that name, but Giggled is over on YouTube, and he or she, I don't know who it is, but they said to make sure and like the video. That helps out with the algorithm. So if you're on Facebook too, help us out and like it, and then share it with your friends over on Facebook or whatever social media account you have, and then make sure you subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, you'll get notifications on YouTube of when we go live. We're kind of bouncing around this week because of work, so make sure you do that. This is the end of segment number 2, Al. Again, we still have open phone lines, 6 minutes left before they're closed. So if you don't get in before 6 minutes is up, then we'll have to close the call. After 60 minutes of no calls, we have to close it. So make sure you get in. It's 864-772-6674. And when we come back, we're going to go over our Week 9 picks against the spread, and then talk about a little bit of the Clemson versus Boston College game coming up this weekend. We'll see you on the other side.
Welcome back to the Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al. I'm your co-host, Big Al, Alan Adams. Thanks for joining us all tonight. We appreciate it so much. If you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, make sure that you get in the comments. Make sure you like the show, share the show, subscribe, follow the show. Do it all, okay? We can take all the support we can get. Basically, and if you hear us on usually Wednesday nights from 8:30 to 9:30, tonight we're doing things a little bit differently. It may, kind of turn into a change in the future. We will let you know. We are also airing on the Roar 105.5 on Thursday nights. So check us out there as well. And if you're listening to us on the Roar at Thursday, check us out on Facebook and YouTube during the week. Right now, we're getting into segment number 3, and I want to give you our segment 3 sponsor. Heating Cooling Services, Inc., family owned and operated, serving Anderson County and surrounding areas since 1980. Heating Cooling Services, Inc. is your residential and commercial comfort expert. Anything from preventative maintenance of your home HVAC system to overhauling a commercial chiller and anything in between. If you want to breathe easier and be nice and cool in your home or business this summer, give Mark or Jason Trammell a call at Heating Cooling Services, Inc., 864-224-7655. Again, that's 864-224-7655. Like Morgan mentioned earlier, we use our sponsors, okay? I have used Heating Cooling Services, Inc. They have saved me a ton of money. They are great to work with. I have known Jason Trammell for a long, long time. So, ladies and gentlemen, they will take good care of you. Give them a call and see what they can do for you.
Welcome back to the show. It's segment number 3. Good job there, Al. Leading us into segment number 3, final segment. And Al, we're kind of like on time, which is kind of crazy. I think I just want to stall for 10 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. Let's talk about something else for 30 minutes, and then we'll finish up segment number 3. No, I'm just kidding. But right now we have 26 people over on YouTube. Thank you so much. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're listening to a podcast, hey, we talked about this earlier on the show. If you're still with us or you just jumped in, maybe you didn't hear this, but we are officially a podcast now, kind of like a condensed version of the show that you would also hear on the Roar 105.5, the radio station. But it's a podcast, so you'll see it on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and a couple of others, Spreaker, a couple other podcast platforms out there. So check us out. If you don't have time to watch the show, or if you just miss it, you can go check us out on the podcast. You can also check us out. Our replays are easy to find over on YouTube. The Morgan Thomas Show. That's all you have to do. Search for The Morgan Thomas Show. You'll see our cool little logo with the Clemson Tiger, or the 2 tigers on there, and that's us. But segment number 3. Oh, before I say this, we have, guys, if you're over on Facebook, make sure you share our Facebook video or share our Facebook page, because we're so close to 1,500 followers over on Facebook. So make sure you do that. We'd really appreciate that. That's kind of like a milestone. Every time we get to 500, we blast it out and we celebrate it. So we want to get, we're like 30 away from that. I think 30 or 40, maybe 30 or 40 away from the 1,500. So if you let your friends know by sharing, that's all we have to, that's all we ask for you there. On the YouTube side, we're at 561. So we just started YouTube actually back in June. So we're a little bit behind the game on YouTube, but compared to Facebook that's been going since December. But make sure you go over on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. We're at 561. We get Super Chat once we get to 1,000, and that's a big milestone there. So we're looking for that 1,000 subscribers over on YouTube. So help us out. Let your friends know about the show. But let's get into segment number 3. This is our Week 9 picks against the spread. And Al right now is doing really well. He's not number 1 in our league, but he is number 2. Evan Fields is a good friend of ours. He is number 1, 128 and 74. So good job there, Evan. Doing great. This is picks against the spread. So doing a great job there. Alan is 125 and 77. And then I'm kind of middle of the pack, 118 and 84, but still above that 50% range. For me, I'm like 58, and Alan and Evan are still up in the 60s. So good job, everybody. We're beating Vegas, at least right now, but that trend, that line is going down now. That percentage just keeps going down for me every week. We were up in the 70s at the beginning of the season. Now we're just kind of, it's catching up to us, right?
Oh yeah, always.
All right, but this is the way we do it. We start off with ACC teams, and then we finish up with top 25 teams. We're not going to do a preview and prediction for Clemson versus BC, but we are going to pick them and give you a little bit, like a mini version of a preview and prediction. Let's start it off with the ACC. Allen, Pittsburgh at Miami. You know how I feel about Coastal Division matchups. It's hard to predict, and this one I feel like is hard to as well because they are in Miami. I used the spreads from our Yahoo Pick'em group, And right now, Pittsburgh is -5. What do you got?
Yeah, like you said, these are really hard to pick. I mean, this smells a lot like the Miami-Virginia game to me, where everybody wanted to pick Virginia. And, of course, Miami came out with the win there. But the fact is, Pittsburgh's an up-and-down team, so it's kind of hard to pick them against Miami. But Miami just lost to Georgia friggin' Tech, okay? Georgia Tech is a terrible team. And, matter of fact, a team I believe you said wouldn't win another game this year. And they find a way last week. So give me Pitt -5. There's no way I can take Miami after that one.
I appreciate you bringing up my error there. You're kind of like that guy on PTI that says things at the end of the show. Like, let me tell you about all the things Morgan said wrong last week. Thank you, Al. I was under the impression that Georgia Tech would not win. I didn't think that Georgia Tech would beat Miami, especially in overtime that would need to beat Miami, which is crazy. This is one of those games that scares me as well. When you look at Virginia, like you said, they went to Miami and got beat up. And the Hurricanes, wiped them out. But Virginia also had a lot of problems in the red zone. They couldn't seem to get it together. They had a chance to win a couple of times. They couldn't seem to get it together. Pittsburgh, though, they're on a 4-game winning streak. And that 4-game winning streak is over some pretty good teams, including Central Florida. And so I look for Pittsburgh to win this game as well. I feel like that it might be a trap game for Pittsburgh going down to Miami, stop their win streak. But I'm going to go with the streaking team, especially Miami. Did you know that Ben Milstead said this on his Twitter account? Manny Diaz came out and said that they're rebuilding. I mean, that you can't use that as an excuse against Georgia Tech.
No, it doesn't work.
In the massive of all rebuilds. And Ben was like, this is the rebuild upon rebuild. This is the mother of all rebuilds. And you are saying that we are rebuilding? It doesn't work, Manny. You're going to have to take that one back. I would love if NMD still, if No More Defeats is still on our YouTube channel, I'd love to hear what he has to say about that, because that was a terrible comment.
Yeah.
Here's another difficult one, and I had conflicting spreads for this, Al. Is Syracuse traveling to Florida State? Yahoo is saying that it's off, but then I'm seeing some they're saying -10.5. So I didn't know really where to. I thought I would kind of scratch my head. Why is it off? ESPN's also saying off as well. I didn't think it would be one of those games that would be an off game. Definitely going into the season, you didn't think Syracuse would be the underdog in an off game against Florida State. So I'm really confused with that. But it looks like from the FPI that Florida State is projected to win by a large margin in this game.
Well, are we going to go with 10.5 or are we going to go with off for our pick purposes anyways?
I mean, I have off in here, so let's go with off and make it easier.
We have off. I'm taking FSU straight up here. Syracuse is flat out just a bad team. So is FSU, but they're at home. I'm rolling with the Noles. I've liked some of what I've seen from FSU with the, getting the offense going a little bit, and Cam Akers, of course. I have no choice but to take the Seminoles here at home.
Yeah, I think that Florida State can definitely beat Syracuse at home. When you look at it, I think that they've beaten NC State, and Syracuse wasn't able to beat NC State. I know it was at different venues for sure, but that's one thing I looked at. And then I have more trust. I know Tommy DeVito, he was the savior. He was going to continue Eric Dungy's streak of being a great quarterback at Syracuse. He was the guy that Dino Babers wants. No, he was not. He hasn't performed very well. Their running game, Mo Neal, who's supposed to be their kind of like key guy, everybody has found out if you stop him, you win. And so Florida State, if you stop the running game, you win against Syracuse. Syracuse is a top 10 team in getting to the quarterback, top 10 in sacks. And with a terrible offensive line of Florida State, that might not be very good for the Seminoles. But if it's straight up, I'm going to go with the Florida State Seminoles as well. On to another, this is a difficult one, a cross-divisional game here. Virginia at Louisville. UVA giving -3.5 right now. And this is a tough one for me because Virginia has lost 2 road games and won 3 home games.
Yep.
But I feel like Virginia's better than Louisville, but they're not very good on the road.
Yeah, and that's a good point, but I think they got back on track a little last week, with the shellacking of the Blue Devils that nobody was expecting that. I think the spread was 3 or something like that, or 4 maybe, and they absolutely hammered them. I think their defense can pose Louisville some problems, much like Clemson's did this past week. I think Louisville can score some points, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Give me the Cavs minus 3.5.
All right. Next up is Duke at North Carolina. Oh, before I tell you that, let me tell you my actual pick for Virginia
That would be a good
versus
idea.
Louisville. This could be one of those games. It's going to be a trap game out. This is going to be one of those ones where an ACC team was supposed to, the strong ACC team was supposed to beat the lower level ACC team, things that the SEC teams seem to do well. And, Richmond Weaver said this on The Ring earlier tonight. He said, maybe the ACC is not as bad if they keep beating up each other. Maybe they're all pretty, average or decent teams that they beat each other up. It's not so cut and dry like the SEC. The SEC has those top 5 or top 6 teams, and then there's a bunch of garbage teams underneath that. So there's all these relatively, set in stone wins for the top SEC teams. When it comes to the ACC, though, it's kind of like in baseball. If you've got a lot of wins and losses, you're playing the same, playing teams, and they're supposed to win but they don't win, and they're supposed to lose but they do win. There's a lot of parity there in the ACC, and maybe it's not because they're all bad. Maybe it's just because they're playing each other, and they're all pretty comparable. And that's the way football goes too. But I have to say that Clemson and the ACC need Virginia to do well. This is a game where Virginia could lose, but I'm going to go with Virginia in this case because of the same things you said with them blowing out Duke, which nobody expected. We're talking about Duke. The next game is Duke at North Carolina. UNC giving 4 points to the Blue Devils. What do you think?
Well, first of all, okay, there we go. We've got back on YouTube. Or on Facebook. We had frozen there for a minute there. Sorry about that. I was trying to refresh the feed there. Duke +4 North Carolina. Look, this was a really a toss-up game for me. I kind of looked at this for a while. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I like to take the home teams in these kind of games, but again, this is the Coastal Division, and anything goes in the Coastal Division. So I'm going to take Duke to rebound against the devastating loss to Virginia last week to cover the spread against the Heels.
Ooh, see, that would be another game where you got two win, 2-loss teams in the Coastal Division, and really kind of your team with the better overall record loses, and then it kind of messes up. There's no powerhouse that comes out of the Coastal if you do that, Al. There's no powerhouse.
I agree.
The Tar Heels have been playing really well. The fact that it is in Chapel Hill means a lot to me. And the Tar Heels have played some really tough teams. If you look at it, Wake, that's a tough team to play.
Sure.
Clemson, App State. Now, let's take Georgia Tech out of the way. But then Virginia Tech in Blacksburg's not an easy game either. I know everybody says, well, the ACC, they're all cupcakes. No, that's not the case. These teams, these guys go out and they give their best every single day. They may not have all the recruiting stars, but and they may not have the undefeated records. But as we said a couple of weeks ago, it's not like just because you're not 25th or top 25 doesn't mean you're all of a sudden 120th. These teams are good teams that UNC has played and hung with. And so I think Mac is going to do well at home. And I look for North Carolina to beat Duke, especially after coming off a blowout loss. I think the Tar Heels keep on winning against Duke. All right, so that's the last ACC game. Oh, we didn't include Clemson, so don't jump in the chat and say we forgot Clemson. We're going to talk about them at the very end. But here's our ranked versus ranked teams. We've got some pretty good ones this weekend. Just a couple or a few, I guess, depending on what you say. We have 3, right? So. Ranked versus ranked, number 8, Notre Dame at number 19, Michigan. Ugh, I just hate saying that. And Michigan is -2. Michigan is the favorite, -2, bringing in Notre Dame.
Yeah, I really want to pick the Irish in the game, mostly due to my distaste for Michigan and anything Jim Harbaugh. But I just can't this week. I think the Wolverines bounce back from their loss to Penn State and cover against the Irish at home.
You think that the Wolverines are going to win?
Unfortunately, yes, I do. And I know that's just going to be another point. Maybe I can gain on the host here because I know you're not picking Michigan, right?
Well, Alan, I do like what Michigan has done at home. They were able to beat Iowa in a baseball game, basically.
Right.
I watched the Michigan Penn State game because I love the whiteout. I love what they do
Me too.
in Happy Valley. Man, that's a beautiful college football scene. And then they were rocking, but they came out like 21-0 in that game, and then Michigan just turned the switch and slowly started to come back. Michigan's wide receiver, Ronnie Bell. I mean, Shea Patterson is driving the team down the field. They get within just a couple of yards from a touchdown to tie the game, to take it into overtime. It goes right into his hands and slips through down his forearm to his elbow and out on the ground. He closes his hands so hard that it looked like he was going to break all his fingers, Alan. That's how bad the miss was. Like it hit him perfectly. And I don't want to beat him up too much, because when he went to the sideline, man, he was just boo-hooing, crying about the issue, about missing that really key, decisive play there that didn't tie the game. And so I feel really bad for Bell. But it was nice to see Michigan make a game of it, as I originally thought. I came out early and said, man, Michigan's a joke. Penn State's going to blow them out and get some bogus ranked win. And Michigan did make a game of it. I don't know if it's because Penn State couldn't figure things out defensively, or if it's because Michigan's actually good. And this is one of those games with Michigan at home. I think that they have a chance, but I just can't do it. I just can't do it. I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan wins, but give me Notre Dame. If it's a close game like that, which Vegas is obviously coming out in the open on Monday saying it's a close game, or within a field goal game. If it's a close game, I have to go with the more experienced quarterback, and I have to go with Ian Book in that case. I trust him more than I trust Shea Patterson, and so But in the end of the day, road wins are difficult. But to me, Michigan's kind of out of the play for the Big Ten, and Notre Dame still has something to fight for. They're hoping to maybe squeak back into the college football playoffs if they can, with continuing to win. And so I'm going to go with Notre Dame plus the 2 in this game. The next one is a big one that we thought it was going to be a big one. We were looking forward to it, and then Wisconsin just lays an egg against Illinois. But number 3, Ohio State goes to Camp Randall. Number 13, Wisconsin. Ohio State is giving 2 touchdowns, -14. What you got?
Are you sure that game's not at Ohio State? Can you check that,
Alan?
Because that could.
You're right. It is at Ohio State.
Okay.
I reversed it. I don't know why, but
Cool.
Ohio. I'm almost 100% sure it's at Ohio State. But
I think it is.
So let me rephrase that. Number 13, Wisconsin travels to whatever their stadium is. I can't even think of it off the top of my head. They travel to Ohio State and play, and Ohio State is -14 in the game. What you got?
Look, Wisconsin, like you mentioned, is fresh off the most shocking upset of the year when they lost on a last-second field goal to a bad Illinois team. Okay, look, assuming Wisconsin still has it in them to be the team we thought they were a week ago, I'm going to take the Badgers as they look for a little revenge against Ohio State, in the Buckeyes' first real test of the year. So I'm going to take Wisconsin to cover. I think Ohio State can pose in some problems with their speed on offense and Justin Fields, but I've just got a hunch on this one, and I'm going with the Badgers +14.
So you're thinking that the Badgers will actually win the game as well as win by
Nope.
Take the 14. Okay.
I'm just giving them the cover.
Okay. All right. So Ohio State wins, but Wisconsin keeps it within 14. Okay, I like that. For me, Ohio State has dominated everybody. They really haven't played a bunch of people. I mean, you got Northwestern, you got Nebraska, Miami of Ohio, Indiana. Not very impressive, right? But then they do have good wins over Michigan State, and they beat them. And then they've got Cincinnati win 42-0 against a Cincinnati team that is leading their conference. So I think you can't say much about Ohio State being able to score big points. Other than the Michigan State, which was still a 24-point win, they have blown out every single team. Wisconsin, I think, with Illinois, got caught up in looking to the next week, as college football teams typically do. And really, they could have won the game, but their coach, Paul Chryst, throws the ball with 2 minutes left in the game, and they throw an interception on a 3rd and 5 when they could have just ran the clock out and punted. I'm completely confused, but they were up by 2 points, and he decides to throw the ball, which he throws into like double coverage, into kind of like a cover 2 to the short flats out there, and completely, throws an interception, allowing them to be at midfield and to kind of get close to a field goal and score the field goal to win the game. I agree with you, Al. I think that I'm not going to count Wisconsin out. They still have a chance to make it into the college football playoffs as well. It's going to be one of those big games. I think that Wisconsin's going to come in and be ready to play. But, Al, Ohio State, let me scroll up on my notes here real quick. Ohio State has, where's it at? Ohio State is 5th in the nation in offense and 2nd in the nation in defense. Now, I know the teams they played for sure, but to be 9 weeks into it and be that high up, better than Clemson in their rankings for sure. I'm going to say Ohio State beats them, man. I think Ohio State has the good combination of passing and running the ball with Dobbins and with Fields. And I think Ohio State obviously has the defense to match their offense. I think this is a big-time statement game that puts Ohio State above anybody, and it'll be interesting because it'll be one of those games where Ohio State beats Wisconsin and still somehow can't get above Alabama in the top 20 or in the top rankings there. They do, at that point, I think they would deserve to be number 1 compared to Alabama. But I'm going to go with Ohio State in this one. I think they're going to dominate in this game. They have been dominating everybody in the Big Ten. I think they're going to continue to do it. Here's our last game of the top 25 versus top 25. This is a big SEC matchup. Number 9, Auburn, travels to the fake Death Valley. Number 2, LSU, number 1 in my heart right now. But LSU is minus 12 going into Monday right now. Now, we know the numbers can change. By the time you might listen to this, the numbers might change from our Monday night picks. But so just keep that in mind. But number 9, Auburn at number 2, LSU. What's your thoughts going into that game?
Look, I've been high on LSU this year after the first few weeks. Obviously, we've kind of seen that their offense has gone leaps and bounds ahead of where it's been these past few years. They're starting to spread the ball out a little bit, and Burrow has done a great job. So I really like what I've seen from LSU. And Auburn really bit me big time when I picked them against Florida, and Florida was able to really, control that game from beginning to end. I just have a hunch that Auburn is able to keep this a fourth quarter game. So give me the Auburn Tigers to cover in the fake Death Valley this weekend.
Oh, man. We're two completely opposite thinkings right here, or trains of thought on this one, Al. I know Auburn's a good team. They're 6-1. Their record looks great. They've only had one loss to Florida in Gainesville, which is a tough environment for sure. They have a great run defense, and they have a high-scoring offense, not really through their quarterback, I don't think, but really through their running back game. Same goes for LSU, has a really high-scoring offense and a really good defense. So it's very similar teams going at each other. The fact is that this is another road game for Auburn, and I think it's going to be tough. It's tough for anybody to win road games, especially in this environment. This will probably be that big college game day game. I think I'm pretty sure. I know that they did put on their Twitter feed that they're going to go to South Dakota State or something like that for some part of the college game day. I'm not sure if it's all weekend, but this is one of those big key primetime matchups with Kirk and Chris going to be calling it. I'm sure it's for me, I'm thinking that LSU they had a great game against Florida and were able to beat Florida. Auburn wasn't able to beat Florida and struggled in a lot of ways. And I think that LSU is going to be able to do the same to Auburn at home. By any means, at home, they should be able to beat Auburn. Bo Nix versus Joe Burrow. If the game's on the line, I'm going with Joe Burrow. I think it's going to be a lot like a repeat of the Florida game. I feel like that they're going to kind of match up really well for 3 quarters, and then that fourth quarter, LSU is going to take it away and win by 2 touchdowns. So give me LSU minus the 12. Let us know in the comments over on YouTube and Facebook what you think about our picks. If you think we're completely off, hey, let us know. We can't be completely off because whatever Alan picks, I don't pick, so one of us has got to be right. I would obviously go with Alan because he has a better overall score in our college football pick'em. I told you he was the analyst going in. I'm just a show host. I'm just a producer.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. I just know graphics. But thanks so much for the support over on YouTube. We got 27 watching on YouTube. Got Nathan Gee in talking about Michigan, saying Michigan's going to win the game. I just can't say it. I just can't say it. College football, Jace comes in and says, go Tigers. Go Tigers. Always go Tigers. But, Alan, how many you got over on Facebook?
We've got 24 right now. We have Clinton getting in saying OSU is going to be exposed. I sure hope he's right. Denise gets in and says LSU wins big. And Chris gets in and says LSU wins out, which I'm not saying I disagree with right now for sure. So we're getting a lot of love here on Facebook. The pick segment popular as always. We're kind of messing with Alan and Mike, who always give us their spread picks. So they're usually with us on Wednesdays, but they're not here. I think we fooled them on the Monday night.
Yeah, we're sorry, Al and Mike. If you're not watching right now, if you're watching the replay, just put it in there. We'll still get the comments and message us. Let us know. You guys got to be Wednesday nighters, and we apologize for that. We got real jobs, and we gotta move around, or at least I have a real job. Alan just kind of watches other people do things. I don't know what Alan does, but all right. So here's the big game. Here's the big game of the weekend. Really for us, it's not the big game for the media for sure, but it's the big game for Clemson fans. Boston College comes to Clemson, number 2 Clemson, or not number 2 Clemson. Excuse me, number 4 Clemson now. I don't know why I put number 2 Clemson. I was just thinking number 2, but number 4 Clemson. Yuck! It's hard to say. It's hard to say number 4, but number 4 is a special number for Clemson Tigers. So. Hey, we'll be number 4. Clemson is minus 33.5 as I'm looking right now. BC is coming off a big win against, nobody picked this, but against NC State of all teams. So I don't think anybody in our college football pick'em picked it. What do you think about BC coming in? Can they, do they have a chance? They have a pretty good offense.
Well, look, when I mentioned, you calling out Georgia Tech for not being able to win a game the rest of the year, I wasn't trying to take a shot at you, okay? I was saving that shot for this last pick right here, okay? Boston College is a team I always like to pick, to cover against the spread. Even when the show host yells at me, bad pick, Al, bad pick, okay? They just lost their quarterback, okay? That was last week, okay? That's a little replay from last week. Morgan Thomas, your humble show host, telling me bad pick. By the way, BC rolled in that game against NC State.
I think you were the only person to actually pick Boston College. I think everybody followed me in the case of bad pick. They just lost their quarterback. People on YouTube were saying bad pick.
Yep.
Alan, I'm just going to be the first one to say that, I'll tell you off the show that I'm sorry.
Yeah, please do. And everybody can get in with your comments as well. I was worried about that one myself, but obviously BC rolled. It was a crazy game for sure. The only thing they have going for them is the run game. And if you can only do one thing, you can't do anything against Clemson because Brent Venables will take it away. All right. I think Venables is going to have a great game plan. As always, give me our beloved Tigers to cover. I have a final score prediction. Clemson 55, BC 10.
55-10. I like that. I think that Clemson's going to be up in the 50s as well, and BC is going to be able to score, but late. We talked about last week, what would Louisville be able to do? Would they come out strong like they had been, or would they fall into that same trap when you play against Clemson where you're just locked down for 3 quarters and then all of a sudden you get a score or two towards the end? That's basically what Louisville did. They weren't really able to get much going. Clemson still got some problems. We saw that. Their running game seemed to be clicking, but Trevor Lawrence is still throwing interceptions. I think he's kind of doing it for fun now. I think he just is, he knows, and that's the thing. I think the ranking is unjustly focused on Trevor Lawrence's performance and not the team as a whole. I think that people are beating up Clemson because Trevor's throwing interceptions. Who cares if Trevor throws an interception if they're up by 30 points? I mean, at the end of the day, really. But we have mentioned that it will eventually catch up to him. We don't want him to just continue to throw the ball and trust his arm more than the coverage that he's seeing with his eyes. If he sees multiple people over there or nobody around, or if it's just too far of a throw for him, which is hard to say, but sometimes it's not so much that his arm can't do it, it's that his feet aren't set right, or he's having to scramble one way or another, and then he throws it off balance. So it's not even really that his arm can't make it to these throws, but he's typically short or long, and it's because he's not set right, and he's trying to do too much. So I want to see Trevor Lawrence kind of settle in and continue to kind of mature as a quarterback and get out of this interception thing that he's got going on. But again, I think it's unfair to beat him up because they're still winning these games, and they're starting to win these games by a lot of points, but they're still dropping. People are saying over in chat they're going to win this game and go to 5th, and that could very easily happen. I think that at least the media wants to keep dropping them until other teams start losing, which, like we've said before, all you have to do if you're a Clemson fan is just be patient. Let the other teams play their games and see what happens. But the Football Power Index has Clemson winning by 98%. I love 98 degrees. I don't know why I said that, but 98% is great for me. I'm going with Clemson to beat BC, and I'm going to clear the points. I think it's another game, just like you said. When you look at it, they should be up in the 45, 50 range, and BC should be around the 6-7 range. That's what I'm thinking. So I will take Clemson minus 33.5. I think they win big, and Clemson will continue to roll. I hope that we don't see the 3rd and short deep ball interception. I hope we get rid of that. That's the only thing I'd like to see other than a big-time Clemson win.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, ladies and gentlemen. If I'm not mistaken, that is our show for the night, and I have really been feeling the love on Facebook today. We have been holding strong, in the mid-20s pretty much all show. We have been steady at over 30 a couple times during the show. Morgan, we're going to have to take a real hard look at doing Monday nights and making that a more permanent thing because the fans were out in full force tonight. A lot of comments, a lot of interaction. Only thing we didn't have was the call-in, so we need to kind of work on that week to week, get everybody to kind of grab their guts together, call in. It's nothing to be on the radio. You want to hear your voice on the radio, it'd be kind of a cool deal. But we really appreciate all the support from everybody on Facebook, YouTube. Like the show, share the show, subscribe to the show, follow the show. And tell everyone you can because we really love the support, love the fans, and want to interact.
Yeah, coming up next for us is when we get off the show, we'll be editing the show. You'll see it up, some clips up on YouTube and Facebook, and then you'll be able to check out the audio version, the podcast version, anywhere podcasts can be found, all the popular locations there. And then also you'll be able to listen to it on the Roar 105.5 in Greenville and Clemson and 97.5 over in Spartanburg. But hey, that's the show for this week. We hope you enjoyed this Monday night edition. And we hope you enjoyed watching, and maybe if you're listening, hope you enjoyed listening. Please check us out, like Alan said, over at all social media accounts. And go follow me over on Twitter. I like to say things at Clemson Morgan. But that's it. The Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al. It's our bedtime. We're out of here. We hope you have a great weekend or great rest of the week because the week just got started. But as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you at the top of the hill.